In the quiet town of Cresthaven, nestled beneath a blanket of stars, the hum of the midnight mechanic's garage resonated like an eerie lullaby. Jake, a skilled mechanic with a penchant for working late, took pride in his ability to bring life back to worn-out engines. Little did he know that the rusty pickup truck parked in the far corner of his garage held more than just mechanical mysteries. One frigid night, as the clock neared midnight, Jake was engrossed in repairing a vintage motorcycle. The rhythmic clinks of tools and the occasional creak of the garage door served as his only companions. The town slept, oblivious to the supernatural undercurrents that lurked in the shadows. As the clock struck 12, the temperature in the garage plummeted, and Jake felt an icy breeze. A faint whisper echoed through the tools, sending shivers down his spine. He dismissed it as fatigue, attributing the strange sensation to the late hour. Yet, the eerie atmosphere persisted, and the rusty truck seemed to radiate an unnatural energy. Determined to focus on his work, Jake immersed himself in the motorcycle's engine. Suddenly, the garage lights flickered, casting long, ominous shadows. Glancing toward the old pickup, he caught a glimpse of a spectral figure seated in the driver's seat. Panic clenched his chest as he realized the apparition resembled a mechanic, clad in grease-stained overalls and a worn cap. The figure turned its ghostly gaze toward Jake, its eyes void of life yet filled with an inexplicable longing. In a spectral whisper, it pleaded for assistance, recounting a tragic accident that claimed its life and left the pickup stranded in Jake's garage for decades. Despite the chilling encounter, Jake felt a strange empathy for the lost soul. Moved by a mix of fear and compassion, he agreed to help. As he worked on the motorcycle, the ghostly mechanic materialized beside him, offering ethereal guidance. Tools levitated, and the garage resonated with an otherworldly symphony of clinks and whispers. Hours passed in a spectral collaboration, with Jake repairing the vintage motorcycle under the ghostly mentorship of the midnight mechanic. As dawn approached, the garage door creaked open, and a warm light spilled into the once shadowy space. The ghostly figure nodded appreciatively before fading into the morning light. Exhausted yet strangely fulfilled, Jake marveled at the restored motorcycle. The once rusty bike gleamed under the sunlight, a testament to the supernatural collaboration that unfolded in the dead of night. Cresthaven, still shrouded in slumber, remained blissfully unaware of the spectral mechanic's visitation. As days turned into nights, Jake's garage became a nexus for lost souls seeking redemption through mechanical revival. Each night brought a new ethereal visitor, sharing tales of untimely demises and unfulfilled dreams. Jake, now a reluctant intermediary between the living and the spectral, continued his nocturnal endeavors, providing solace to those who lingered in the shadows. However, with every repair, Jake noticed a gradual change in the atmosphere. The garage, once a haven for the supernatural, became a battleground for vengeful spirits unable to move on. Shadows twisted into menacing forms, and the once soothing whispers transformed into anguished cries. One fateful night, a particularly tormented spirit emerged, accusing Jake of meddling with forces beyond his understanding. The garage, once a place of solace, now echoed with malevolent laughter and ominous whispers that seeped into Jake's consciousness. The vintage vehicles that once held benevolent spirits now housed entities fueled by resentment and fury. Determined to end the spectral onslaught, Jake delved into ancient texts and sought the advice of spiritual guides. The answer became clear: the garage, now a twisted realm between worlds, needed to be cleansed of the malevolent forces that had taken residence. Armed with newfound knowledge, Jake performed a ritual on the cursed vehicles. Smoke filled the garage as incantations echoed in the dimly lit space. The atmosphere crackled with supernatural energy, and the vengeful spirits fought against the cleansing ritual. Shadows writhed, and the air grew thick with tension. As the ritual reached its climax, a blinding light enveloped the garage. The malevolent entities screamed in agony, their spectral forms dissipating into the ether. The vintage vehicles, now cleansed of their supernatural taint, stood silent and still. With the dawn breaking on Cresthaven, Jake emerged from the garage, exhausted yet victorious. The once haunted space now held an air of tranquility, free from the lingering echoes of tormented spirits. As the town awoke to a new day, Jake pondered the thin veil between the living and the dead, realizing that even in the mundane world of mechanics, the supernatural could weave its mysteries in the quietest hours of the night. Emily's first night at Greenwood Cemetery felt like a descent into darkness. The job of a night watchman was supposed to be mundane, a chance to earn a paycheck while the world slept. However, As she patrolled the silent rows of tombstones beneath the cold moonlight, an unsettling feeling crept over her. The cemetery had a history, whispered about in hushed tones among locals. Legend spoke of a grave that, when disturbed, unleashed a malevolent force that roamed the grounds at night. Emily scoffed at such tales, dismissing them as local folklore. Little did she know that the night would unravel the fabric of her skepticism. Her radio crackled to life with the voice of the old caretaker, Mr. Thompson, who warned her to stay vigilant. Emily brushed it off as routine advice, continuing her rounds. As the night wore on, an ominous fog rolled in, obscuring the graves like spectral veils. In the distance, Emily noticed a faint light emanating from the oldest part of the cemetery. Against her better judgment, curiosity propelled her forward. The glow intensified, revealing an ancient mausoleum bathed in an otherworldly aura. The door creaked open on rusty hinges as if beckoning her inside. Entering cautiously, Emily felt a chill that went bone deep. Shadows danced along the stone walls, and the air grew thick with a sense of foreboding. As she explored the dimly lit chambers, she stumbled upon an unmarked grave hidden in the shadows. The air became charged with an eerie energy. Compelled by an inexplicable force, Emily reached down and began to unearth the long-forgotten grave. The ground gave way to an old, weathered coffin. As she hesitated, a spectral figure emerged from the shadows, its hollow eyes fixated on Emily. A voice, ancient and mournful, echoed through the chamber. Why disturb the resting place of the forgotten? The figure's ethereal form hovered above the open coffin. Terror gripped Emily as she stammered, I didn't mean to. I didn't think it was real. The figure's eyes flickered with a spectral light as it spoke of a curse that bound it to the cemetery. It explained that Emily had unleashed a force that would now wander the graveyard until dawn. Panic surged through her veins as the ghostly entity vanished into the shadows. The graveyard transformed into a nightmarish realm. Tombstones seemed to shift, casting elongated shadows that danced menacingly. The fog thickened, and Emily heard whispers that reverberated through the cold night air. She realized the legends were true, and her skepticism had led her to this haunting predicament. As Emily desperately tried to find her way back to the entrance, the spectral force grew more malevolent. Shadows clung to her like tendrils, and the fog obscured her vision. The whispers intensified, taunting her with eerie echoes of long-forgotten sorrows. In the distance, a haunting melody played, carried by the wind. Emily stumbled upon an old caretaker's shack, where the source of the music revealed itself, a dusty, weathered music box. The tune echoed through the night, haunting and mournful. The ghostly apparition seemed drawn to it, their moans blending with the melody. With a desperate idea forming in her mind, Emily grabbed the music box and ventured back towards the mausoleum. The ghostly figures followed, their ethereal forms flickering in and out of existence. As she neared the unmarked grave, Emily wound up the music box. The haunting melody filled the air, enveloping the graveyard in an eerie harmony. The spectral figures writhed in discomfort, their mournful voices drowned out by the ethereal tune. Emily placed the music box inside the open coffin, hoping to appease the vengeful spirits. To her relief, the ghostly figures began to fade, their anguished cries diminishing with each passing moment. The fog lifted, and the graveyard returned to a semblance of normalcy. As dawn approached, Emily stood in the silence, surrounded by the quietude of the once again peaceful cemetery. With the first light of morning, Mr. Thompson arrived, finding Emily weary but alive. She recounted the harrowing night, realizing the consequences of meddling with the supernatural. The old caretaker nodded knowingly, sharing stories of those who had tried to defy the curse in the past. As Emily left the graveyard, she couldn't shake the feeling that the eyes of the forgotten were still upon her. The memory of that fateful night would forever linger in the shadows, a cautionary tale for those who dared to disturb the resting souls of Greenwood Cemetery. The night auditor position at the Grand Plaza Hotel was notorious for its solitude. Mark, an introverted college student seeking a quiet job to cover his expenses, thought it would be an ideal fit. Little did he know that the haunting history of room 333 would unravel his nights in ways he could never have anticipated. The first few nights were uneventful, with Mark crunching numbers at the front desk, occasionally glancing at the security monitors displaying empty hallways. The atmosphere was hushed, disrupted only by the distant hum of the vending machines. However, as the clock struck midnight, a peculiar chill seemed to settle over the lobby. On the third night, a guest approached the front desk. Dressed in outdated attire, the elderly woman asked for room 333 with an unsettling intensity in her gaze. Mark hesitated, noting that the hotel didn't have a room 333. The woman's eyes widened, her voice a haunting whisper as she insisted it existed and that she had stayed there decades ago. Mark, bewildered, directed her to room 333, an empty storage closet according to the blueprints. The woman vanished into the elevator, leaving Mark with an uneasy feeling. He decided to check the security footage, only to find the elevator empty when it reached the third floor. Shrugging off the bizarre encounter, Mark continued his routine. As the nights passed, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Whispers echoed through the empty hallways, too faint to decipher. On the fifth night, the elevator dinged, and Mark reluctantly glanced at the security monitor. The display showed room 333, a room that shouldn't exist. With a knot in his stomach, Mark decided to investigate. As he approached the door, the air turned frigid, and the whispers grew louder. He cautiously opened the door, revealing a room frozen in time. Antique furniture adorned with dusty sheets, dim lighting casting eerie shadows on the walls. In the center of the room stood the elderly woman, her gaze fixed on a vintage rotary phone. As Mark stepped closer, she turned, her eyes hollow and void of life. "Help me," she whispered, her voice a spectral echo. Mark, paralyzed by fear, witnessed the room transform. Flickering lights cast disorienting shadows, and the temperature dropped further. The whispers grew into agonized moans, a chorus of trapped souls longing for release. Mark stumbled backward, desperate to escape the surreal nightmare. As he rushed back to the front desk, Mark noticed the clock ticking backward. Time warped and twisted in the haunted corridors of the Grand Plaza Hotel. Panicking, he tried to call for help, only to find the phone lines dead. The lobby, once a haven of solitude, transformed into a surreal maze. Room 333 appeared on every floor, each iteration more disturbing than the last. Mark felt the eyes of the trapped souls following him, their whispers now a cacophony of despair. The elevator became a portal, leading him through distorted dimensions where past and present collided in a nightmarish dance. With each passing hour, Mark's sanity unraveled. Shadows seemed to detach from the walls, assuming ghostly forms that lunged at him. The air was thick with a malevolent energy, and the hotel's history played out like a haunting film before his eyes. In a moment of desperation, Mark reached room 333 one final time. The elderly woman stood at the center, her spectral form flickering. "Break the cycle," she pleaded, her voice a chorus of tormented souls. Driven by an otherworldly force, Mark smashed the vintage rotary phone. The room convulsed with an otherworldly energy, and time seemed to freeze. The whispers subsided, and the shadows retreated, leaving Mark alone in the silent hotel. As dawn broke, the Grand Plaza Hotel returned to normalcy. Mark, disheveled and haunted, stumbled out into the daylight. The once silent lobby buzzed with morning activity, oblivious to the nightmarish ordeal that had unfolded. In the weeks that followed, Mark quit the night auditor position, haunted by the memories of room 333. The Grand Plaza Hotel stood as a silent witness, its walls holding the echoes of a supernatural disturbance. The tale of the night auditor who dared to confront the spectral realm became a whispered legend among those who dared to work the graveyard shift.